Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The Philippine Central Bank says it's been intervening less in the currency market, signaling greater confidence in the peso's stability. The Agriculture Department stresses the need for the NFA to procure 20% of local rice to help ease prices in the market and support farmers. And the Trump administration moves to contain the fallout after a journalist is accidentally included in a secret group chat on U.S. military operations in Yemen. All that and more coming up. First, let's take a look at how financial markets performed overnight. The Nasdaq closed higher on Tuesday with gains in Apple offsetting a dip in Nvidia as investors weighed new consumer sentiment data. Market moves were also shaped by comments from U.S. President Donald Trump, who said automobile tariffs were coming soon, but noted that not all proposed duties would be enforced in the upcoming April 2 announcement.
I would start by suggesting that March Madness in 2025 started in the stock market this year as opposed to on the basketball courts, as we've seen a heightened level of volatility and a heightened level of uncertainty. That volatility and that uncertainty has led to a downward pull with respect to stock market activity. We've seen some attempts at a bounce back only to be thwarted by more uncertainty. That uncertainty has left some money on the sidelines.
Checking on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was flat, the S&P 500 higher by 0.2%, and the Nasdaq higher by 0.5%. Over in Europe, the UK's FTSE 100 higher by 0.3%, Germany's DAX higher by 1.13%, and France's CAC 40 up by 1.1%. Here at home, the country's balance of payments is expected to slip back into deficit, a sign that the Philippines may face tougher times ahead in attracting foreign capital and supporting its external position. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, now projects a $4 billion BOP deficit in 2025, widening to $4.3 billion by 2026, reversing the surpluses of the last 2 years. The central bank says slower trade growth and subdued investor confidence brought on by geopolitical uncertainty and global trade policy shifts are expected to drag on inflows. The BOP posted a surplus of just $609 million in 2024, which is a steep drop from the $3.7 billion in 2023, reflecting the country's shrinking buffer against external shocks. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, is seen intervening less in the currency market as the peso continues to strengthen against the U.S. dollar. BSP Governor Remolona Jr. says that the peso's 1% appreciation this month has eased pressure on the central bank to step in. The peso is currently the second best performing currency in Asia, next to India's rupee, giving the central bank more room to consider rate cuts. Remolona signals a possible 75 basis point cut this year, depending on inflation and growth data. He warns, however, of more upside risk for inflation in 2025 and in 2026. The BSP is also considering a 25 basis point cut as early as April 10. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is reminding online sellers and sole proprietors to file their annual income tax returns ahead of the April 15 deadline as the government steps up efforts to widen the tax base in a rapidly digitizing economy. BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. says this reminder targets businesses that have crossed the value-added tax threshold, urging them to comply with formal tax rules. Taxpayers earning above 3 million pesos annually are also required to submit audited financial statements to ensure transparency and compliance. The push comes amid government efforts to boost revenue collections and bring more digital and informal players into the formal tax system, which is crucial for funding public services and reducing the budget deficit. Maharlika Investment Corporation, or MIC, President and CEO Rafael Consing remains optimistic about the future of the country's sovereign wealth fund despite headwinds like high interest rates and a widening budget deficit. Consing compares his role at MIC to Michelangelo sculpting David from a block of marble, saying that the job requires vision, precision, and the ability to uncover value from within. Since last year, MIC has invested in the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP, and is actively pursuing high-impact projects in infrastructure, energy, and digital transformation. As the country's first sovereign wealth fund, MIC is seen as a crucial tool to channel capital into long-term development with the potential to spur economic growth, attract foreign partnerships, and build national competitiveness amid global uncertainty. The Department of Agriculture is renewing its push for stronger government intervention to stabilize rice prices, warning that without sufficient funding, the National Food Authority cannot fulfill its mandate to protect both farmers and consumers. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tu Laurel Jr. says the NFA needs to procure at least 20% of local rice supply to effectively influence palay or unhusked rice prices. But he admits the agency's limited budget hinders its ability to compete with private traders and stabilize farm gate prices. The NFA currently buys fresh palay at 18 pesos per kilo and clean dry palay at 24 pesos, prices that may fall short of incentivizing smallholder farmers amid rising production costs. This push comes amid heightened pressure to address food security and tame inflation, with rice remaining a key driver of the country's consumer price index. Ensuring a stronger role for the NFA could help build stability in the agriculture sector and protect low-income households from price shocks. All 4 lanes of the northbound section of the North Luzon Expressway in Marilao are now fully open, just in time for the Holy Week travel rush. NLEX Corporation says the repairs were completed ahead of the March 31st deadline, thanks to the expedited delivery of fabricated steel for the damaged bridge. The incident stemmed from a March 19 accident when a 4.9-meter high truck struck the bridge, forcing partial closure of the expressway. The early reopening is expected to ease traffic flow for motorists heading north for the Holy Week break. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's take a look at how Asian bourses are faring this morning. Taking a look at Japan's Nikkei 225, it's in the green, higher by 0.4%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index higher by much more, up by 1%. And Shanghai's Composite up by 0.3%. And Singapore's Straits Times Index up by 0.3% as well. Taking a look at our market, recall here at home, Philippine shares fell for a third straight session yesterday, with the PSE Index dropping 0.5% to 61.59. This as investors remain cautious amid tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. Analysts expect trading to remain volatile this week as markets await further clarity on U.S. trade policy and inflation data. Now let's take a look at how our bourse is doing right now as of 10:12 this morning. The main gauge is in the red, down by 0.7% to 61.14. The broader all shares index in the red as well, lower by 0.9% to 36.25. As for the sub-indices, the financials, industrial, holding firms, property, services counters are in the red, while the mining and oil counter is in the green, up sharply, up by 1.4% in early trade. And at the foreign exchange market, the peso opened stronger at 57.58 against the greenback from its previous close of 57.60. Now, the Philippine Stock Exchange Incorporated, or PSE, is under renewed pressure to modernize its systems as technical disruptions continue to raise questions about the stability and global competitiveness of the country's capital markets. The latest call comes after a system connectivity issue on Monday that delayed the start of trading by nearly 2 hours. Juan Paulo Colet, the managing director at China Bank Capital Corporation, says a robust and modern infrastructure is essential if the PSE wants to boost investor confidence and attract more foreign participation. He warns that recurring glitches undermine market credibility at a time when the Philippines is working to promote itself as a viable investment hub in the region. Peter Luis Garnace, equity research analyst at Unicapital Securities, adds that without immediate disclosures, such trading disruptions could erode trust and trigger unnecessary volatility. On Monday, trading began at 11:10 a.m. instead of the usual 9:30 a.m. The main gauge fell by over 1% that day to 61.92, with all the indices closing in the red. On another front, Bilyonaryo Manny Pangilinan launches a high-tech greenhouse complex in Bulacan, a move he says is his personal contribution to the country's push for food security. Sujin Kim has the details.
A new era in agriculture was unveiled by ultra-Bilyonaryo Manuel Pangilinan's Metro Pacific Fresh Farms in San Rafael, Bulacan. A high-tech greenhouse designed to grow vegetables even amid a Cignal No. 4 typhoon is now operational. It is neither flood-prone nor affected by extreme heat. The facility can harvest over 60,000 heads of lettuce per month year-round, using 90% less water and land compared to traditional farming.
When you water the plants, you use dilig. 90% of the water is lost because it's just in the soil and it evaporates. It's not in the root system. In this system, the water is targeted at the root system, so walang nasasayang. That's why 90% less water.
They plan to double the current 800 million peso 3.5 hectare facility to 7 hectares and set up 10 satellite farms in the next 5 years. Target locations include islands and remote areas still dependent on supply from Metro Manila.
For you to understand the concept, Boracay is an island. All the vegetables there are imported from Metro Manila. So, but theoretically, if we can put, for example, let's say 1 hectare of green leafy vegetables there, then that's going to be produced locally.
This month, they will roll out their supermarket brand, More Veggies Please, or MVP, through existing partnerships with retailers like Robinsons, SM, and Pure Gold.
True to our purpose of really democratizing this and really giving this to the Filipino consumer, if we can expand to as many provinces as we can at as soon as possible time, then we will do so.
All these efforts are part of MVP's broader vision to strengthen the country's food security.
We hope we could build more greenhouses around the country so that we're able to help in feeding our people first. No?
Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
House lawmakers insist it's time to move forward with the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte, nearly 2 months after the articles of impeachment were transmitted to the Senate. House Minority Leader Marcelino Libanan on Tuesday filed a formal motion urging the Senate to issue a summons to the Vice President, compelling her to respond to the charges. Libanan stressed that this issue should not be taken lightly, pointing to the over 200 congressmen who voted in favor of the impeachment.
Ang sinusunod po natin dito ang ating konstitusyon. Napakahirap pong mangalap ng 215 members of Congress to file an impeachment, the articles of impeachment. Kaya ang konstitusyon natin ay nagbibigay na ng mechanism na pabilisin kaagad ito, upuan kaagad dahil napakaseryosong bagay po ito.
Meantime, Vice President Sara Duterte expresses confidence that her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, will be acquitted of charges of crimes against humanity. The Vice President made that statement during a gathering with supporters at The Hague in the Netherlands, where the International Criminal Court is based.
He's very confident about that what they did was wrong, and there is no case to begin with. He feels better now, and thankfully the doctors and the nurses are taking good care of him.
We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. The Trump administration is facing serious questions about its handling of sensitive military information after a journalist was accidentally included in a secret group chat on U.S. war plans in Yemen. The incident has raised broader concerns over cybersecurity, communication protocols, and accountability within the White House National Security Team. President Trump downplayed that breach, saying no classified information was shared. But National Security Advisor Mike Waltz confirmed that an investigation is underway into how Atlantic Magazine editor Jeffrey Goldberg was invited to join that group. Trump said that the administration will review its use of the Cignal app, but maintained that Waltz does not need to apologize.
I said we'll look into it. But everybody else seems to be using it. It seems to be the #1 used device or app, whatever you want to call it. And we will certainly look. If it was up to me, everybody would be sitting in a room together. The room would have solid lead walls and a lead ceiling and a lead floor. But, you know, life doesn't always let you do that. In the meantime, the attack itself that we were talking about and discussing has been an unbelievable success.
Bolivian laborers set fire to an effigy of the country's Minister of Labor as anger boils over economic hardships and alleged corruption that could shake business confidence in the region. The protests come amid rising living costs and growing frustration over government inefficiencies. Workers accuse Labor Minister Erland Rodriguez of failing to protect their rights while blaming President Luis Arce for worsening economic conditions and dwindling public trust. Factory workers and indigenous street vendor unions are leading the demonstrations, which highlight broader instability that could deter foreign investment and strain supply chains in Latin America. Inflation in Bolivia is now projected to surpass 12%, adding to pressure in emerging markets already facing global economic headwinds. In other news, at least 15 people are dead as wildfires continue to ravage South Korea's southeastern region, a disaster that could have wider implications for supply chains and energy security in Asia. The fires spread rapidly on Tuesday, destroying entire neighborhoods and forcing mass evacuations, including thousands of inmates from prisons. Acting President Han Duck-soo has ordered the deployment of firefighting helicopters and ground crews as strong winds and dry conditions continue to fuel the flames. Authorities say some of the victims died while trying to escape in a vehicle that overturned. The wildfires, which began last Saturday, remain uncontained, with flames damaging homes and even ancient cultural sites. South Korea plays a critical role in global tech and manufacturing supply chains. And while major industrial zones remain unaffected, climate-driven disruptions like these could raise risks for infrastructure, logistics, and foreign investment. Now, before we go, a rare family moment from the Duchess of Sussex is making waves online. Meghan shared a new photo with her children, Archie and Lilibet, her kids with Prince Harry. In the Instagram post, Archie, now 4, and Lilibet, age 2, are seen joining their mom in what looks like a harvesting activity. Meghan captioned the photo, "Every day is a love story." The couple has kept their children out of the public eye since stepping back from royal duties in 2020. But personal moments like this have become part of their strategy to build a global brand spanning media, tech, and lifestyle ventures. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.